On a cold night in January 1990, Avianca Flight 52, a Boeing 707 from Bogota, Colombia, approached New York after a long journey. The passengers were tired but eager to arrive, and the crew, however, faced worsening weather and repeated holding instructions near JFK Airport. Minutes turned into hours. The fuel gauges fell lower and lower. When the aircraft finally attempted its approach, it was too late. Engines flamed out. The jet crashed on Long Island, killing 73 people. The heart-breaking truth: the flight had no suitable alternate airport planned with enough fuel to divert. A simple decision, choosing the right alternate, could have saved dozens of lives. Sorry, colleagues, I immediately jumped into the topic without saying hello to you. Greetings and welcome back to my channel. I'm delighted to have you here today, and in this presentation we're going to talk about a subject that often remains hidden behind the scenes, but it absolutely is critical to aviation safety: alternate aerodromes. These aren't just backup airports. They are lifelines carefully chosen to ensure that when the unexpected happens, every aircraft has a safe place to land. Before we talk about these life-saving aerodromes, so let's watch a video to find out what had really happened with Avianca Flight 52. So let me find out the video. Yeah, we are here and let's watch the video.
January the 25th, 1990. Air traffic controllers have been nervously tracking a massive low-pressure system approaching the northeast coast of America. The weather is already near the safe minimum to land a plane, but within the next few hours, fog and low clouds have closed the main runway at JFK. "2,400 miles to the south in Colombia, it's a warm, sunny day with not a cloud in the sky. Avianca Flight 52 is now boarding passengers for New York. In the cockpit, flight engineer Matthias Moyano monitors the loading of over 13,000 pounds of fuel, enough for the journey, plus an extra 2 hours flying time. Just after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Avianca 52 takes off from Medellin with its maximum allowable fuel load. The Colombian airliner heads north for the United States with 158 passengers and crew. JFK Airport in New York now only has one runway for landing, and aircraft are queuing up to use it. In the near blackout conditions, several planes have to abort their landings, which only adds to the delays. On Flight 52, they know none of this. The crew neither receives nor requests the weather for New York or for their alternate airport, Boston. Avianca 52 enters the airspace near Norfolk, Virginia. All communications with air traffic control will be handled by the 28-year-old co-pilot, Mauricio Klotz.
Washington, good evening. Avianca 052 Heavy, flight level 370.
Avianca 052 Heavy, Washington Center, roger. Avianca 052, I'd like you to make a right 360-degree turn. And I need you to get a pencil ready for holding instructions at Norfolk.
Okay, 360-degree right turn at Norfolk. Avianca... Okay.
They're being diverted out over the Atlantic Ocean near Norfolk, Virginia, and placed in a holding pattern. Here, the aircraft will fly an elliptical racetrack pattern while it waits for further instructions from air traffic control. While air traffic controllers try to cope with the increasing backlog of flights, Avianca Flight 52 circles for 19 minutes over the Virginia coast, waiting for permission to continue its journey to New York. Avianca Flight 52 is on its final approach to New York. unaware that conditions for landing at JFK are barely above the safe limits to land a plane. It's a pitch-black night with heavy mist, rain, and sudden violent winds. The plane has now almost used up the fuel planned for the journey and will shortly start eating into its reserves. The crew is considering diverting to their alternate airport in Boston, just 210 miles from New York.
Washington Center, Avianca 052 information Heavy. About delays to Boston?
Boston, I'll check that, sir.
Thank you.
The Washington controller asks his assistant to check on the conditions at Boston, but he gets distracted juggling other aircraft and forgets all about Avianca's request. While Flight 52 is left waiting for an answer that never comes, their precious fuel supply is slowly draining away. Engineer Moyano begins to calculate how much fuel they'll have after an additional 30 minutes of holding. Even before they can respond, Washington Control directs them to another holding location. Flight 52 is now off the New Jersey coast in an area known as Cameron, less than 45 miles from Kennedy Airport, but it seems as far away as ever. 52's situation now goes from bad to worse.
Avianca 052, descend and maintain 14,000.
It's handed over to the New York controllers, who even on a good day can be intimidating. And today is not a good day. There are up to 39 aircraft trying to land, and dozens more on the ground waiting to take off. New York Center finally gives the crew of Avianca 52 the message they've been waiting for.
Avianca 052 Heavy, Avianca Kennedy is 2,400 feet. Can you accept an approach?
That's an affirmative, sir.
They think they're finally in the clear.
Avianca 052.
Then, calamity. The foul weather and zero visibility forces several aircraft just ahead of them to abandon their landing attempts and make a second attempt. The controllers have bad news for the Colombian airliner.
Avianca 052. Continue to the left, heading 230 vectors, holding at Cameron again.
Another hold.
Okay, 230 vectors for holding at Cameron.
The Avianca 052. Turn left, heading 090. Hold at Cameron, maintain 1,000.
They've been held up for 48 minutes on the way here. Now they've been circling around for another 25 minutes, only a few miles from the safety of JFK Airport.
Avianca 052, expect further clearance time 0205. Expect further clearance in 20 minutes.
It's now that the stress level in the cockpit begins to rise.
0205. Well, I think we need priority. We are passing out of fuel.
The flight engineer quickly calculates the remaining fuel.
Yes, sir, we'll be able to hold for 5 minutes. That's all we can do.
Avianca 052, roger. And what's your alternate?
We said Boston.
But it's full of traffic, I think.
Avianca 052, say alternate again.
It was Boston, but we can't do it now. We'll run out of fuel.
Avianca 052, cleared to land at Kennedy via heading 040, maintain 1,000 at speed 180.
Heavy.
Avianca 052, before you go, there is a wind shear alert on final at 1,500 feet. Turn left, heading 090.
Left, heading 090, Avianca 052
The crew of Flight
Heavy.
52 believe controllers on the ground are at last aware of their fuel emergency and are clearing the 707 for a priority landing.
Then the go-around procedure is stating that the power be applied slowly.
In the cockpit, the crew now hastily discuss the go-around procedure, what the manual says they must do if they can't find the runway through the fog and low clouds and have to go around a second time. It's standard procedure.
Power be applied slowly and to avoid rapid acceleration.
Flight engineer Moyano is concerned that if the captain were to pull up the plane's nose too sharply, all the remaining fuel would slosh to the back of the tank, causing engines to stop.
Covered on fuel during the go-around. What it means is it doesn't contain fuel.
Descend and maintain 3,000.
Descend and maintain 3,000, Avianca 052 Heavy.
3,000 feet. They got us. They're already vectoring us.
No, they are descending us.
They are giving us priority.
Can I lower the landing gear yet?
No, I think it's too early. If we lower the landing gear, we have to maintain a very high nose attitude. Gear down.
Avianca
5222 left, wind 190 at 20, cleared to land.
Clear to land, Avianca 052 Heavy. Wind check, please.
190 at 20.
With the weather deteriorating and flying on fumes, the crew of Flight 52 will have only one chance of getting their 149 passengers safely on the ground. With about 10 minutes of fuel remaining and just 2 miles from the runway, Flight 52 finds itself flying into violent wind shear, forcing them to slow the plane down.
This is the wind shear.
Now the wind changes direction. It's pressing them down towards the ground.
Glide slow!
Glide slow.
Sink rate
Glide
500
slow.
feet.
Glide slow.
The captain desperately searches for the runway, but it's shrouded in low clouds and fog.
Terrain.
Lights!
The runway, where is it?
I don't see it. I don't see it.
The plane's warning system is telling them that they're about to crash.
Glide slow! Sink rate
slow.
500 feet.
Glide slow.
Just 2 miles from
Glide slow.
touchdown, Flight 52 has been caught in violent wind shear.
Terrain.
To save the plane, Captain Caviedes applies full throttle, burning up more of the plane's precious fuel.
Give me the landing gear up! Landing gear up!
As Captain Caviedes pulls back hard on the yoke to climb to safety, the 707's remaining fuel is forced to the back of the tank and away from the fuel pumps.
I don't know what happened with the runway. I didn't see it.
I didn't see it either.
I didn't see it.
Avianca 052, you were
Making a left turn, correct, sir?
Tell him we are in emergency.
2,000 feet. That's right, to 180 on
the heading and we'll try once again. We are running out of fuel.
Okay.
What did he say?
I already advised him that we are going to attempt again.
Advise him we are in emergency. Do you tell him?
Yes, sir, I already advised him.
52 is instructed to fly a long approach pattern for another landing attempt. The plane is down to its last dregs of fuel as the crew waits for final clearance from ground controllers.
Avianca 052 heavy.
Avianca 052.
Affirmative, sir. Turn left, heading 040. Climb and maintain 3,000.
Negative, sir. We are running out of fuel.
Okay, turn left, heading 310, sir.
Set flaps 14.
Okay, and you're number 2 for the
Approach. I just have to give you enough room so you can make it without...
having to come out again.
Okay. We're number 2 and flying 360 now.
It just fell out of the sky. That's how witnesses describe the crash of Avianca Flight 52. A strangely silent crash.
There was not a big fire here. That will make it easier for investigators to examine if there were any gas
what
or
exactly is an alternate aerodrome? According to ICAO, it's another airport where an aircraft can safely go if, for any reason, landing at the intended destination becomes impossible or inadvisable. But it's not just any airport. It must have the right services, the proper facilities, and be operational at the expected time of use. There are 3 main types: takeoff, en route, and destination alternates. So let's explore each one together with some real aviation stories. A takeoff alternate is needed when the weather at the departure airport is below landing minima, or if returning to the departure airport is not possible. For twin-engine aircraft, this alternate must be within 1 hour's flying time at 1 engine in operative speed, and for 3 or more engines, it's 2 hours. So let's proceed with another example. The Gimli glider 1983, which happened in the year of 1983. Air Canada Flight 143, a Boeing 767, ran out of fuel shortly after takeoff due to a miscalculation. With no way back to the departure airport, the crew diverted to an abandoned airbase at Gimli. That alternate became their lifeline, and thanks to extraordinary piloting, everyone survived. So before we proceed, once again, let me present you some shortcuts of what had really happened with Air Canada 143 to know the importance of selecting takeoff alternatives. Okay, let's go to watch another video.
Skies over central Canada. Air Canada Flight 143 is just past the halfway mark of its journey from Montreal to Edmonton, Alberta. The plane is carrying 61 passengers and 8 crew members.
Come on in. Pardon me, gentlemen. Rick.
I knew Bob Pearson from the small flying club that I attended in St. Lazare, and he was actually one of the local pilots there that used to do some gliding, and he also flew the ultralight Lasers.
This is one of 4 767s that Air Canada has recently acquired. The plane itself has only 150 hours on it. Pilots and maintenance crews are both still getting to know this airliner.
Well, then we get that same condition.
Captain Pearson explains to Dion how he handled a small problem with the engines on an earlier flight.
Comes back down to low stage and we just carry on. You know, that brings up an interesting...
Fuel pressure. Why would that be?
Whoa.
A warning alerts the crew to critically low pressure at one of the plane's fuel pumps.
Something's wrong with the fuel pump.
Low pressure warning could mean that one of the pumps needs maintenance, but it could also be a more serious issue, a lack of fuel to be pumped.
That forward fuel pump. It's just a bloody pump failing, I can tell you that.
Another low fuel pressure warning sounds, this one from another fuel pump on the plane's left side. Pearson's flight management computer tells him he should have plenty of fuel for the remainder of the trip. The 767 also has separate digital fuel gauges, but on this flight those gauges are out of service. The warnings don't make sense. Captain Pearson knows that if the left tank is running low, the right tank may be low as well.
Let's head for Winnipeg. Now.
Pearson wants to land as soon as possible in case he is running out of fuel. The crew is still more than 700 miles away from their original destination, Edmonton, Alberta. The nearest major airport is Winnipeg, Manitoba, a mere 120 miles away.
Go ahead.
Ron Hewitt has 20 years' experience as a radar controller.
Yes, sir, we have a problem.
We're going to requesting direct Winnipeg.
Air Canada 143 cleared. Take position, direct Winnipeg.
You are cleared to maintain 6,000, descent, your discretion.
Okay, we're out of 410.
Pearson now begins to descend from 41,000 feet.
Oh man, they're all going out, eh?
The low pressure warnings are spreading to more and more of the fuel pumps. Quintel instructs the cabin crew to prepare for an emergency landing.
I hope this is just false warnings. Rick, can you think of anything we haven't done?
No, I can't, Bob.
Okay. We've lost the left engine.
Losing an engine erases any doubt. Flight 143 is in fact running out of fuel.
Okay, checklist. Single engine landing.
Approach and landing. Flaps will be 20. Ground flap override.
What was that? How come I have no instruments?
It's exactly what Pearson had feared. He's lost both engines. At 26,500 feet, still 75 miles from the nearest major airport, he's out of fuel.
Winnipeg, Air Canada 143.
Air Canada 143, go ahead.
Just lost both engines.
An airplane's engines not only provide thrust, They also generate the power needed to manipulate the plane. It would be completely uncontrollable, but modern airliners are like a Swiss Army knife with one last blade hidden away. In the event of a loss of power, they automatically deploy the RAT, or Ram Air Turbine. Pearson knows that time is running out. He needs directions to the closest landing strip.
143, this is a mayday, and
We require a vector on to the closest available runway.
143, we copy that all okay.
But the loss of the plane's engines has had an unexpected consequence at air traffic control.
They're gone. They were right here. We've lost him. He's dropped off the screen. I need primary radar.
Commercial jetliners are equipped with a transponder, a device that transmits coded information which air traffic controllers use to determine the plane's location. But when Flight 143 lost its second engine, only a small number of items got backup power. The transponder was not one of them, so the plane disappeared from Hewitt's screen. Flight 143 is somewhere east of Winnipeg, but no one knows exactly where or how far it is from the airport. In spite of its enormous weight, a 767 doesn't plunge from the sky when it loses its engines. Its aerodynamic properties keep it in the air, but slowly coasting to Earth.
Let's say that's him.
Because their modern equipment can't see Air Canada 143, the controllers switch to old-fashioned radar, which doesn't need a transponder to locate planes.
143. We have you at 65 miles from Winnipeg and approximately 45 miles from Gimli.
For the first time since losing power, the pilots know their distance to Winnipeg.
We might make Winnipeg.
Quintel, however, thinks that Gimli is a safer bet. Gimli, Manitoba has a decommissioned Air Force base. It's about 20 miles closer than Winnipeg. As luck would have it, Maurice Quintel trained at Gimli while in the armed forces. He knows it well. Pearson must consider the possibility of a crash landing. If he has any chance of making it to Winnipeg, which has full emergency support, he knows he must try for it.
Okay, and how far from the field are we now?
You're 35, correction, make that 39 miles from Winnipeg.
We're visual.
But the news from Quintel is not good.
Bob, we can last maybe another 20 miles. We're not going to make Winnipeg.
Quintel has calculated that at the rate they're falling, they would hit the ground a full 15 miles short of the runway.
How far are we from Gimli?
You're approximately 12 miles from Gimli right now.
Where is it?
Which way is he moving? On your right. Turn right to a heading of 345.
I would say you have 10 miles to fly.
Okay, fine. We're gonna go there. Landing gear down.
Roger.
First Officer Quintel lowers the landing gear. Because there's no hydraulic power, Quintel does what's known as a gravity drop, letting the gear's own weight drop and lock it into place. The two main gear are heavy, they fall immediately, and two green lights confirm they've locked. But the nose gear is lighter, it doesn't lock.
5 miles to touchdown.
Roger. We have the field in sight.
5 miles from Gimli, Pearson and Quintel finally see a runway they can land on. But there's a problem.
We're too close, huh? It's going to be too steep, too fast.
Yeah, I know.
Pearson is almost at the runway, but he's much too high above it. If he comes down at a normal descent rate, he'll miss the landing strip. But if he comes down steeply, his plane will gather a dangerous amount of speed. He won't be able to stop before the end of the runway. Only about 3,000 feet above the ground, the plane doesn't have enough altitude to make a full circle. It would hit the ground before making it back to the landing strip. Pearson chooses a second option.
Well, I guess I'll just slip it.
Pearson decides to try a maneuver called a side slip, practically unheard of on commercial airliners, but sometimes used by glider pilots. Side-slipping involves what's known as crossing the controls.
Here we go.
Pearson plans to force the aircraft into a sideways freefall, allowing it to drop quickly without increasing its forward airspeed. As Flight 143 begins to drop towards the Earth, Quintel is about to discover something he did not expect. The runway he trained at 15 years ago is no longer a runway. Captain Bob Pearson is out of fuel, out of engines, out of options. If he can't line up with the runway at Gimli, he doesn't get a second chance. Pearson turns the yoke left and pushes the rudders to the right. The plane slips to its left. Pearson must maintain a crucial balance. He's got to slow the plane enough to be able to land safely. But if he slows down too much, the airliner could lose its lift and plummet to the ground. But now, only hundreds of feet from the ground, Quintel sees that their troubles are far from over. And one thing the 767 doesn't have is a horn.
Brace! Brace for landing!
The front landing gear gives out immediately. Pearson brakes hard. 2 tires blow out. The bottom of the right engine scrapes the runway. With no nose gear to steer with, Pearson's only hope of driving the plane left or right is by varying the brake pressure on the 2 main landing gear. The plane plows into a guardrail installed down the middle of the runway.
Smoke, Bob.
17 minutes after running out of fuel, Air Canada Flight 143 comes to a final stop on the ground.
Yeah? Passenger evacuation checklist. Passenger checklist.
Fuel shut off.
Off. Cabin depressurized.
Electrics off.
Electrics off. Checklist complete. Time to get out of here.
Ten people are slightly injured during the evacuation, most of them coming down the steep rear slides. There's still a lot of smoke coming from the plane's nose. All 61 passengers have made it off the plane. There's not so much as a single serious
coming
injury.
Back to en route alternates. En route alternates are essential for EDTO or ETOPS flights, long journeys across oceans or remote regions where airports are scarce. A good example can be Air Transat Flight 236, happened in year of 2001. An Airbus 330 flying from Toronto to Lisbon suffered a massive fuel leak over the Atlantic. Both engines eventually shut down. The pilots glided for almost 20 minutes, unthinkable for a heavy airliner, before landing safely at Lajes Air Base in the Azores. Without the en route alternate, the outcome would have been tragic.
This is not just a story of an air traffic incident. It's a story of human psychology, negligence, process failure, and skilled airmanship. This is the story of Air Transat Flight 236. Toronto, Canada. It's August 23, 2001. Air Transat Flight 236 is a scheduled transatlantic flight from Pearson International Airport to Lisbon's Portela Airport in Portugal. 293 passengers, mostly tourists and holidaymakers, and 13 crew were preparing for their 7-hour journey. This flight would depart Toronto and fly over Halifax, St. John's, and then begin its Atlantic crossing to cover the remaining 5 hours before landing in Lisbon. The plane for the incident flight was a 2-year-old Airbus A330. It first flew with Air Transat in 1999. the flight was powered by two powerful Rolls-Royce Trent 772 Bravo engines. The crew unloaded 46,900 kilos of fuel for their flight across the Atlantic. This was 4,500 kilos above the minimum requirement. The crew filed the flight plan, requested pushback, taxied to the runway, and then departed Toronto at 0052 UTC. Although the A330 was fully computerized, standard operating procedure required that the crew manually calculate their direction, distance, and fuel remaining on board at every waypoint. The crew completed these checks as the flight crossed waypoints at 50 degrees west and then at 40 degrees west. At 4:57 UTC, approximately 4 hours after takeoff, the plane was crossing 30 degrees west, and it was time to complete the checklist again.
We are at 30 west. FCOM check, please.
Fuel on board is 21.6 tons. It's within 1% of expected values, Captain. Fuel check complete.
But, unbeknownst to the pilots, something disastrous was already unfolding within their airplane. 6 minutes later, at 5:03 UTC, the crew got an unusual warning on their screens.
Captain, there's something wrong with engine 2. Low oil quantity, high oil pressure, and low oil temperature readings. Number 1 is looking fine though.
Oil temperatures usually only go up, they don't go down. A low oil temperature reading normally means that they have a bad sensor. High oil pressure is also a very rare scenario, and most pilots go their whole career without seeing this. And when this happens, it usually indicates that the oil is contaminated with fuel. But unfortunately, this isn't explained in the A330 manual. Sensor. The pilots thought that what they were seeing was just a computer glitch, and that their plane was actually fine. And so they decided to keep going. The fuel leak had started at 4:38 UTC, and fuel had been leaking for over 30 minutes at this point. But as the fuel was leaking, the trim tank was automatically filling the right tank up to maintain the center of gravity, and hence the pilots were unaware of the fuel leak. Their next manual check of the fuel quantity would have been at 20 degrees west, which was still 20 minutes away. Due to the leak, the quantity of fuel on the right tank was depleting faster than the left tank. But when the last trim tank transfer happened, it transferred all the remaining fuel to the right tank. And so, as the fuel leak continued, there was no more fuel to top up. At 5:33 UTC, a fuel imbalance advisory message was displayed on the ECAM screen. Glitch with the computers. For the crew, the fuel imbalance and the fuel quantity indications were unusual and unexplainable, further convincing themselves that this was just a computer error, and that the fuel quantity was actually fine on their plane. The crew's initial response to the fuel imbalance message was to cross-feed the fuel from the left tank to the right tank to maintain balance. The captain completed this step from memory, but what he forgot was that the checklist had a warning that the cross-feed step should not be carried out if a fuel leak is suspected. But unfortunately, that got ignored. The crossfeed, of course, didn't fix the issue. A few minutes later, the crew calculated that the fuel remaining on board was just 11,000 kilos. They should have had 20,000 kilos at this point.
It's probably just a glitch. Let's keep monitoring.
These pilots had not previously encountered a fuel leak or an unexplained low fuel quantity warning, neither in real life nor in training. They're going to have to figure things out on their own. The fuel quantity continued to drop as they kept flying towards Portugal. At 5:45 UTC, the crew calculated that they no longer had enough fuel to reach Lisbon and decided to divert the plane to Leges Airport in the Azores. At 5:48, the crew advised ATC that the flight was diverting due to a fuel shortage and that they only had 7,000 kilos of fuel left. The captain asked the lead cabin crew to conduct a visual check of the engines and wings for any evidence of a fuel leak. Now in daytime, a fuel leak would be extremely obvious to see. But in the middle of the night, it was next to impossible to identify. The cabin crew returned to the pilots and said that,
"I don't see a leak or condensation on the wings, Captain."
Okay. It's likely just a computer error, but we've diverted to Lodges Airport.
The captain then told her to prepare the cabin for a landing, but most likely for a ditching in the Atlantic Ocean. The fuel on board was rapidly decreasing and was now at 4,800 kilos, 12,000 kilos less than what was planned. And 10 minutes later, at 6:13 UTC, when the aircraft was at flight level 390 and 250 kilometers from Lodges, the right engine flamed out. 2 minutes later, the fuel reduced further to 600 kilograms. The first officer declared a mayday
Air
with ATC.
Transat 236. We are declaring an emergency. We have lost our number 2 engine.
The Airbus A330 has an ETOPS 180 rating, meaning it can fly on a single engine for up to 180 minutes, more than enough time for Air Transat 236 to reach the Azores. As long as nothing else goes wrong, the crew will be able to land this plane safely. But when the flight was 120 kilometers away from the runway, the left engine flamed out as well. The roaring sound of the engines was now replaced with an eerie silence. Oxygen mass dropped due to the loss of pressurization, and the ram turbine was deployed to provide electrical power for critical instruments. With no power, Air Transat Flight 236 was now just a glider. Assisted by military air traffic controllers and radar vectors from Lodges ATC, the crew carried out an engines out visual approach. The weather was fine, so they had that going for them. The aircraft was descending at about 2,000 feet per minute, and the crew calculated that they had about 15 to 20 minutes left before they would be forced to ditch in the ocean. To help identify where the airport was, the crew asked the ATC to constantly flash the runway lights on and off. At 6:31 UTC, the aircraft arrived at 8 miles off the end of the runway at approximately 13,000 feet. Unfortunately, they were too high to make it. The captain had to find a way to lose altitude fast. He made the hard decision to turn the plane around and do a 360-degree to lose altitude. If he got this wrong, they'd end up in the Atlantic Ocean right under them. He successfully completed the 360-degree turn, but unfortunately, he was still too high to reach the airport. So during the final approach, he conducted a series of S-turns to increase the distance covered and to lose additional altitude. The plane is now just a couple of miles away from the runway. Captain Pichet has one chance to land this plane. There are no do-overs, there are no go-arounds. This is it. The most important landing he's done thus far. Just prior to the landing, the first officer issued a brace, brace, brace command. At 6:45, the plane crossed the threshold of runway 33 at around 200 knots. They were landing so fast that the plane hit the ground and then bounced back up in the air. The captain didn't want to get airborne again, so he forced the stick down to push the plane back on the runway and then applied maximum brake. The plane came to a stop 2,000 feet from the end of the runway. Due to the force of the landing gear ruptured and small fires started near the left main gear wheels. Emergency response vehicles at the scene quickly extinguished the fires. The captain ordered an emergency evacuation, and 14 passengers and 2 crew members received minor injuries. 2 other passengers received severe injuries during the evacuation. The final report identified the root cause as poor maintenance practices by Air Transat's maintenance staff. It also pinned the flight crew for not recognizing that a fuel leak existed and for carrying out a fuel imbalance procedure checklist from memory.
Now coming to destination alternate. Almost every IFR flight requires at least one destination alternate. It's the safety net if you cannot land at your origin airport. There are exceptions such as, for example, when weather is granted to remain clear, or when multiple runways with instrument approaches are available, or when flying to isolated airports where additional fuel in a point of no return calculation replace an alternate. For example, Avianca Flight 52 in the year of 1990 that we watched the video already. So the tragedy was started with which shows exactly why destination alternates matter. The Boeing 707 had no safe backup and insufficient fuel. When JFK became unavailable, there was nowhere else to go. A lack of planning cost dozens of lives. Sometimes regulations even require two destination alternates, especially if the weather forecast is below minima or no forecast is available at all. ICAO allows flexibility, but only if the operator can prove through a detailed safety risk assessment that the same level of safety can be maintained without following the standard alternate rules. This assessment must consider the operator's capabilities, the aircraft systems and performance, aerodrome facilities and procedures, reliability of weather information, and any additional risks along with their mitigation. In short, alternate aerodromes aren't just backup airports. They are carefully chosen lifelines that protect passengers and crew when things go wrong. And that brings us to the end of today's journey into the world of alternate aerodromes. From the heroism of the Gimli glider to the glide of the Air Transat 236, and yes, to the tragedy of Avianca 52, we see one clear truth. Aviation safety depends on always having a plan B. So I hope you found this lesson both informative and inspiring. So thank you very much for joining me today, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Please like, share, and subscribe. So together we can keep exploring the amazing world of aviation. Until next time, I wish you clear skies and safe flights. Thank you and goodbye.